She was laughing softly, a sound more private than the wine glass she was holding, as I stood in her kitchen doorway, soaked from the rain. Her hair was damp, a few strands clinging to her neck, and her robe, thin, careless, the tie loose enough to suggest she forgot or didn't care, shifted with every gesture. I shouldn't have been there. Not this late. Not like this. But then she looked at me. Not past me, not through me, at me. Her eyes lingered for half a second too long, and everything inside me stilled. She said, "You'll catch cold like that." And I said, "I know." But I didn't move. And neither did she. I moved into the downstairs unit of the duplex in early September, dragging a thrift store couch and an old mattress behind me, sweating through my t-shirt while pretending I had everything under control. I didn't. I had just left my graduate program 2 states away, burned out and quietly ashamed. The landlord had said, "She lives upstairs. Keeps to herself. You'll like her. Quiet, no drama." I hadn't asked who she was. Her name was Elise. I found that out 2 days later when she knocked on my door to offer a small basket of muffins she'd baked, just to welcome you. She was poised, warm in a way that didn't ask for anything in return. Mid-40s, maybe, with an elegance that made you slow down just to watch her pour tea. Chestnut hair, faint freckles on her collarbone. A voice that made everything sound like a secret. She wore loose linen pants and a navy sweater, no makeup, bare feet. I noticed all of it. Tried not to. Failed. "Thanks," I said, taking the basket. "You didn't have to do that." She smiled like she'd heard that 100 times. "I know." We stood there for a moment. Not awkward, but not easy, either. She glanced behind me into my half-unpacked mess of a living room. "You just moved in alone?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just me." Something flickered in her expression. Not pity, recognition. She nodded, almost to herself. "Well, if you ever need anything, tools, sugar, the usual, I'm just up the stairs." I thanked her again. She started to turn away, then paused. "And if you don't mind music in the evenings, I play a little. Piano. Nothing loud." I shrugged. "I like music." Her smile softened. "Good." Then she left. That night, after I ate a dinner I barely tasted, I heard the first notes. Soft, patient chords filtering through the ceiling. Not a song I recognized, just something slow and aching. I sat on the floor and listened like it was a language I used to know. Over the next few weeks, I saw her in fragments. A shadow passing the window upstairs in the late afternoon. The soft clink of dishes being washed when I took out the trash. Her voice, low and steady, murmuring into the phone on her porch while the sky turned pink. We didn't speak much, but we always noticed each other. It was the kind of noticing that doesn't announce itself. Just glances held a second too long. A slight lean in her body when she laughed at something I said. She was always kind, always polite. But behind that grace, I could feel it, an undercurrent. Once, I caught her trying to wrestle a too large plant through her front door. I was coming back from the grocery store, bags cutting into my hands. "Need a hand?" I asked. She looked up, startled, then smiled. "It's heavier than it looks." I dropped my bags on the stoop and moved to help. We carried the pot inside together, elbows bumping awkwardly. She led me into her living room, and for the first time, I saw her space. Warm light spilled across pale wooden floors. Bookshelves lined one wall. Plants clustered near the windows like a small jungle. A piano stood in the far corner. Real wood, not digital, with software on the keys. "You can set it there," she said, motioning toward a spot near the window. I placed the pot down gently. She wiped her hands on her jeans, then looked at me. "Thank you." "No problem." We stood there. Her close, the air faintly floral and lived in. "Do you want some tea?" she asked. "Or coffee, if you prefer. I just made a fresh pot." I hesitated, then nodded. "Tea's good." She moved to the kitchen, and I followed without really deciding to. She poured hot water into a ceramic mug and handed it to me. Chamomile, I think. We sat at the small round table by the window. Outside, the street was quiet, leaves starting to fall. She curled one leg under herself, fingers cradling her own cup. "So," she said, "what made you leave grad school?" The question didn't come with judgment, just curiosity. I stared into my tea. It stopped feeling like something I wanted, and I got tired of pretending it still did. She nodded slowly. "That's brave, you know." Felt more like failure. Her eyes met mine. Failure and bravery aren't opposites. Sometimes they're the same thing. I didn't answer. but I let the silence stretch. It didn't feel uncomfortable, just full. After a while, she stood and walked to the piano. "Do you want to hear something?" I nodded. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and let her fingers rest on the keys. Then, slowly, she began to play. It wasn't flashy. No grand gestures. Just something soft and honest, like a confession you didn't realize you needed to make. I sat back, mug in hand, and listened. And for a while, everything else faded. The decisions I hadn't made, the quiet that haunted my nights, the fear that I was drifting, all of it softened under her music. When she stopped, she looked over her shoulder. "Too much." "Not enough," I said. She laughed softly, then glanced at the time. "I should let you get back." I stood, lingering with my hand around the now empty mug. "Thanks for the tea," I said. "Thanks for the plant," she replied. As I reached the door, she added, "You know, you're welcome here. If you ever want company, or just need a place that isn't your place." I turned to face her. Her voice was steady, but her eyes gave something away. Something unsure. Something that wanted, even if it couldn't say what. I nodded. "Same goes for you." She smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes this time. Just hovered there, quiet and uncertain. Then I left. And the whole walk downstairs, my chest ached, not with something heavy, but something new. Not desire. Not yet. Just the beginning of a question I wasn't sure I had the right to ask. The next few weeks passed in slow, almost imperceptible turns. I'd hear her piano in the evenings, quieter now, more careful. Sometimes she'd open the upstairs windows, and the notes would drift out into the air, soft as breath. I started reading again. Books I'd meant to finish years ago. I'd find myself underlining lines that reminded me of her, though I didn't know why. We didn't spend hours together, not often, but our paths crossed more deliberately. She knocked on my door one evening with a borrowed Tupperware dish I hadn't realized she'd taken from our first encounter. Inside were small slices of a fig tart she'd made. "I had extra," she said, and then hesitated. Or maybe I made too much on purpose. She handed it to me. Our fingers brushed, just a little, and neither of us moved away too quickly. I thanked her and invited her in. She didn't hesitate this time. We sat on the couch, tart between us, 2 forks, and a glass of wine each. The conversation started light. Films we loved, music we didn't. She made fun of my devotion to film scores. "They're all melancholy and dramatic," she teased. "So am I said, and she smiled like she already knew. At some point, the mood shifted. Not suddenly, just subtly, the way twilight seeps in without asking. She asked about my family. I gave her the easy version. "And your mother?" she asked, softly. I hesitated. "She passed 3 years ago." She didn't rush to speak, just reached out and touched the back of my hand, gently. "I'm sorry," she said. "Thanks." I stared at her fingers resting against mine. Pale, steady, gold bands still faintly etched into the skin where she no longer wore a ring. "Do you ever regret staying here?" I asked, quietly. "In this house?" She looked around, as if seeing it from my eyes for the first time. "I used to think I was just waiting for something to change," she said. "But lately, I'm starting to think I stayed because I didn't know how to want anything different." She glanced back at me. Her gaze wasn't soft this time. It was clear, like she wanted me to understand something she couldn't say outright. There was a silence, deep and long and real. I broke it. "You don't seem like someone who doesn't know how to want." Her smile was faint. "I didn't say I don't. I said I forgot." That night, when she left, I didn't watch her go. I stayed seated, eyes fixed on the wine glass, her fingerprints fogging the glass. I didn't sleep well, not because something had happened, but because something almost had. And that almost had weight. A storm rolled in on a Thursday. I was working late on a freelance project, headphones in, when the first rumble of thunder shook the window panes. Rain smeared the glass until the world outside blurred into motion. Then came the knock. Barely audible over the rain, but enough. I opened the door, and there she stood, hair damp, a hoodie pulled over her shoulders, cheeks flushed from the cold. "I lost power upstairs," she said. I didn't want to sit in the dark. I stepped aside. "Of course. Come in." She walked past me, shedding the hoodie like it was just another layer of pretense. Underneath, she wore a faded band tee and soft drawstring pants. Not careful, not composed, just real. I made tea. She curled her legs beneath her on the couch. The storm lit up the room in flashes, thunder rolling in like a slow tide. We talked about nothing for a long time. Stories from childhood. The first concerts we'd been to. Her laugh was quieter now, more inward. The kind that didn't need to impress anyone. She asked if she could play something, just a few chords, to feel the keys under her fingers. I moved my keyboard onto the coffee table. She sat cross-legged and touched the plastic keys as if they were relics. She didn't play a full piece, just fragments, a melody half-remembered. I watched her, not her hands, her face, the way she softened when she was creating something. "You look younger when you play," I said, not thinking. She paused, smiled, barely. "I feel younger." Then she stopped playing. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. She looked at me, eyes darker now, unreadable. "I should go," she said, standing. "I didn't mean to." "Stay," I said, too quickly. Then quieter, "You don't have to go yet." She stood there, motionless, torn, like she was standing on the edge of something she hadn't meant to find. And then, without speaking, she sat back down closer this time. Her knee brushed mine. "I don't know what this is," she said, voice quiet, brittle. "I don't want to make it into something it isn't." "I know," I said. "Neither do I." We didn't move. The rain lashed against the windows like it was trying to force a decision we weren't ready to make. She looked at me, really looked. There was something behind her eyes. Hunger, yes, but not just for touch. For closeness. For being seen. "I don't remember the last time someone looked at me like that," she whispered. "Like what? Like I still exist." I wanted to reach for her hand. I didn't. I wanted to say something to take that ache out of her voice. I couldn't. So instead, I just said, "You do." The silence after that was thick, but softer somehow. Like a truth had been spoken, and neither of us knew what to do with it. She left just before midnight. The storm had passed. The sky was clear again. I stood in the doorway, watching her climb the stairs back to her own door. She paused once at the top, glanced back. No smile, just something unreadable in her eyes. Then she disappeared inside. And the only thing louder than the storm had been was the echo of everything we hadn't said. The weather turned colder in the weeks that followed. The trees went bare, the light shifted, and everything felt suspended, like we were all holding our breath. We saw each other more, but not in any scheduled way. She'd knock sometimes, holding a plate of something she baked. Other times, I'd find her sitting on the porch steps, bundled in her coat, watching the street like she was waiting for someone who never came. Once, I walked up without saying a word, handed her a cup of coffee. She didn't thank me, just smiled and shifted over so our shoulders could touch. We talked less now, but what we didn't say filled the space more than words ever could. That Friday evening, she invited me upstairs for dinner. It was casual on the surface, just a homemade soup and bread, something simple. But the candles on the table said otherwise. So did the wine, already opened. So did the way she looked at me when I walked through the door, like the pretending was getting harder. We ate in slow, quiet bites. She had music playing, old jazz, low and warm. I asked her why this album, and she said, "Because it makes me feel like I'm not wasting time." Later, we sat on the couch. The wine had loosened something between us. Not enough to make us reckless, just enough to make us honest. She told me about her marriage, unprompted. It wasn't bad, she said, just unfinished. Like we were always waiting for it to start becoming what we thought it would be. And it never did? No. We built a life around the idea of a life. And when it cracked, we didn't fight. We just let it fade. She turned toward me, legs tucked underneath her. "Do you ever feel like you're meant to connect with someone, but it's the wrong moment in both your lives?" I didn't answer at first. Then, yeah, I do. Her hand was resting on the couch between us. Not reaching, not retreating. I let mine slide beside hers. Not touching, but close enough to feel the heat. She didn't move. Neither did I. "I should be old enough to know better," she said, not quite to me. "You're not doing anything wrong." A long pause. Then she looked at me. There was no flirtation in her eyes. Just weariness. Hope. Fear. "I think about you too much," she whispered. I swallowed. "I know. Me too." We sat like that for a long time. Close. Too close. And when I finally stood to leave, she walked me to the door. The hallway light cast a halo around her, softening the sharp edges. "Do you ever wish we'd met at a different time?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd opened something fragile. "I don't wish that," she said, "because then I'd miss this." Then, quietly, she reached for my hand. Just held it. Not possessive. Just present. And in that moment, it wasn't lust. It wasn't fantasy. It was two people quietly admitting that they were no longer alone in the exact same way. The first frost came the morning after I woke from a dream where she never let go of my hand. Everything outside felt sharper, thinner. The world pared down to essentials. I could see my breath as I stepped outside. A hush over everything. She didn't come downstairs that day, or the next. By the third, I knocked, not out of impatience, but out of something quieter. Concern. A need to know she was still there, still orbiting the same quiet gravity we'd built. She opened the door slowly. No makeup, a sweater too big for her shoulders. Eyes tired. "I've been thinking," she said before I could speak. "About us." Her laugh was faint. "About what isn't us. About what space we've quietly taken from each other." I stepped inside. The house smelled like bergamot and something baking that had long since cooled. "I don't regret any of it," she added. "Neither do I." She turned to face me. "But I keep wondering where it goes. If it goes anywhere. Or if it just stays like this, soft and unspoken and permanent in a way nothing real ever is." I didn't say anything, because she was right. There was no future waiting for us in some shining reveal. No dramatic upheaval. No leaving behind a life for another. Just this. These months. These evenings. The long silences where we saw each other more clearly than we ever had with anyone else. "I don't want to pretend we weren't something," I said. "But maybe we were the kind of something that only happens once." Her eyes glistened. She looked down, then back up at me. "I wanted to kiss you," she said softly. "So many times." "Me too. But it would have broken something," she said. "I know." And then, after a long breath, she reached forward and touched my face. Just once. Her thumb brushed just under my eye, not wiping a tear, just finding it. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me. Always." I stayed for tea that night. We didn't touch again. Didn't need to. She played the piano while I watched the dusk fall outside the window. The notes lingered longer than usual. When I left, she walked me to the door. No kiss. No promises. Just her hand in mine. One last time, fingers warm and certain. Then she let go. I walked down the steps into the quiet cold. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Not because someone was waiting for me, but because someone had been there. And for a little while, that was enough.